Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 4.2, video 3, interpreting line graphs. So we've been talking today a lot about investing, and particularly investing in stocks. Before you choose to invest in a stock, you usually want to do a lot of research on the company, and part of that is also going to be looking at line graphs of the profits of the company, and then also probably of the price of the stock over time. So today we're going to talk about some different ways that we can interpret and look at those kinds of graphs. So if you look in your notes, you should see this graph. It's of their sales for produce, it looks like, in thousands of dollars over time. So it's from October of 2019 through June of 2020. And what we're going to do to interpret or understand, analyze this graph is look at the minimum, which is just the lowest value or the lowest point. So the lowest cost of produce, or the lowest amount of sales that there were, the dollars that they sold, the maximum, which is the highest value or the highest point, and then peaks and relative maximums. So your peaks or relative maximums, you also have relative minimums, which is sort of the opposite. Peaks are like mountain peaks, which are just those like high points of the mountains. They might not be the highest point on the graph, but they are higher than the values that are right next to them. And then the range is just your maximum subtract your minimum, which is just the difference in your maximum and minimum. And so if we look at this graph right here, we can identify our minimum, which it looks like our minimum is in March. That's the lowest point on this graph. We also have a maximum. Now, I don't know for sure that this is the maximum because this is where our graph stops, but it is the highest point that we have on our graph. So I'm going to label that as our maximum. And you can just drag and drop those same words to label your graph. And then let's look at our peaks. So a peak is sort of where it's relatively high. So like right here, see how it kind of looks like a mountain? It's a peak. Same thing over here, sort of funny looking mountain, but it is still a little bit of a mountain. And so that's going to be another peak. And then a relative minimum is where it's dipping low. So you kind of think of it where you kind of see like these little holes, the bottom of that. And so we do have one relative minimum over here. And then if I wanted to calculate the range, because that's going to let me know just like how much variety there is or sort of how stable the price of my stock is or the company sales are. So we're going to look at our maximum and our minimum. Our maximum over here, it looks like it's around $80,000. And our minimum is down here, it looks like it's at about $10,000. So we're going to do 80, subtract 10, and that's going to give us 70. So the range for this data would be $70,000. If you look on the next slide, you should see a graph where you can practice doing this all on your own. But that's really it for interpreting line graphs, at least on a very basic level.